Oh,
Holy fuck, that was nice.
You know what's annoying? I'm 3 days away from flying out, and 2 days ago I started feeling sick as well.
Oh,
I was like,
they're not letting you pass across the border, buddy.
they will, don't worry. I am, for the last 2 days, I've been dosing myself with every fucking medication to get rid of all my symptoms. I'm like, I'm getting up. I'm not, it's not COVID, it's just a fucking head cold, but I'm like, nah, I'm not fucking, no.
Nope, they're gonna have to quarantine you with the rest of the sheep.
Nah, I'm gonna be good. But yeah, I'm on a few medications to clear sinuses and all that shit. It's just like, nope. If I don't think I'm gonna get sick, I'm not gonna get sick.
No, you're gonna get sick.
I'm not gonna get
You
sick.
are going to get very sick.
Nope. I'm gonna be fine.
Nope.
But you're gonna get sick 4 days into the
You're
trip.
going to spend your entire time in Italy. Yeah.
I already did that when I was traveling. I was in Wales, and you know when you're I was on a train, and there was all these kids coughing and stuff like that. You know when you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, I am
These
so
little
gonna get
bastards.
sick right now. It's like, you know when you just know you're gonna get sick. I was like, yeah, this is
You just get that vibe you're going to be sick.
yeah. And it was 3 days later. I had a fucking head cold for 5 days. And I was just laid up at my at an extended family's house. I was like, I really want to move on with my holiday, but I can't fucking do anything right now.
Nope,
It
you're dead.
Sucked.
You will die a slow and painful death in Italy.
Nah, I'm just gonna keep myself laced up with enough booze that I don't notice.
It seems reasonable.
I mean, I'm going to wine country in Italy, so vineyards are a 5-minute walk away from my accommodation.
And then you're gonna be going to Grappa country, and nothing good comes from drinking that.
Well, after Italy, I go to Glasgow, and then it doesn't matter what you drink, you just drink.
Because there's nothing better to do.
No,
Only half true.
you get into fights, and
That's
I'm
true,
going
I guess, yeah.
I'm going to Glasgow, but I'm going to a town called Dumbarton in Glasgow, which is
I'm so sorry.
it's the Glasgow of Glasgow.
Oh, I am so sorry, Callum.
I've been there before. I actually kind of liked it.
I see he's a masochist.
Well, I mean,
be
I
good.
got last count was something 40 cousins over there.
Jesus Christ.
Well, because it's my over there
You
is my
Kiwis
mum's.
are randy little buggers, aren't you?
No, it's my mum's dad. He's Scottish. He's from Dumbarton, and he has 9 brothers and sisters, and they all, there's all nothing to do there, so you just go to bed early and increase the population. So yeah, last count when I was up there, I met something 25 out of a possible 40 cousins, and was sitting there going, "Sorry, how are we related again?"
Good
Yeah,
Lord. Go take some pictures of the river while you're there.
the old Clyde.
Love it. By the way, Callum, can you hear me?
Hear you
Okay,
pretty
cool.
good.
All right, boys. Let's light this up.
Let's do this thing.
Let's do it.
You are listening to the Micro Machines podcast, and this week we are discussing Canadian military power and trucks with a friend of the podcast, Don.
Hi.
And shall we do some introductions for this skeleton crew?
I think so. So we'll go with me, Callum. In New Zealand, I'm not sick. I'm not going to get sick.
He's sick.
I'm
Hey,
fine.
New Zealand government, he's sick. He can't leave the island. Have a nice vacation.
But anyway, so I am drinking a nice Canadian Club and dry ginger ale, just the 4.8% one, but it's doing me a world of good.
Because he's sick.
Not sick. Don, introduce
Sick.
yourself.
Hi. It's me, Don, occasional podcast interloper and friend of the podcast. And tonight we have a delicious Bellwoods Brewery Pilsner on tap, also 4.8% by a strange coincidence. And no, you are going to get sick.
And you've got me, Dennis, just beside Don. I am currently drinking a non-alcoholic cold coffee from this morning. It's funky
I
enough. I
can't.
think I'm going to get. It's going to do something to my mental state by the end of this episode.
I can't
We'll see
with
what
you. It's going to do
happens.
something to your gastrointestinal state is what it's going to
No,
do.
no. That's the raw ramen I ate today.
You're going to go on the world's best weight loss regime soon.
See, they say your body is a temple, and mine is like this church that's been decaying for the past 1,000 years.
Yours is Notre Dame mid-plays.
Well, Don, we are gathered here today to discuss. The hell are we discussing today?
So that
Enlighten us.
I might preach from the altar of the CMP truck. So you'd be happy to know I have a script and everything, and I guarantee you that I'm barely going to adhere to it.
I give you one slide before you deviate from it.
Well, we'll see. So my slide notes for this one, for example, say things as useful as intro, blather on humorously, which, we failed right there. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the Canadian military pattern truck, which was the sort of stalwart of the Commonwealth forces during the Second World War, sort of the equivalent to the ye old Yankee Doodle deuce and a half, but with about 8 billion more variations and substantially less ergonomics incorporated into its design, as you will soon see.
Are these the trucks that, you can only drive them if you have no legs?
Yes, so that's the nod to the subtitle there. I didn't post anything up here for fear of being sued into the Stone Age, but the chieftain, if you toddle on over to his YouTube channel, has a video of him trying to fold himself into the cab of one of these, and it is well worth the 3.5 minutes it takes.
He didn't really make it, did he? Well, he can
No,
get
he
in,
did not.
but no.
No, it's the first vehicle he's admitted that he cannot operate, and that includes things like the TKS and that the Ferret and that little tiny French Chinette ammunition
And the M22 as well.
and the Locust. Yep.
Yep.
So there you go.
So if he can't drive it, I can't, because...
Nope. Oshawa defeated the chieftain.
Yes. I love my town. Come back anytime, tall Irish boy. We'll show you what's what.
All right, switcheroo there, Slide Master. So, in the before times, you'll be shocked to learn that Canadian military procurement hasn't changed since the First World War, and we went to war in the
shit.
Yeah, well, precisely, and we went to war in the First World War with basically a scatter shot of whatever privately owned vehicles could be pressed into service, commercial trucks like that Kelly Springfield that we bought off the Americans that were completely and utterly useless, some Model Ts, and then a whole pile of stuff that we begged, borrowed, and stole from the Brits and the French.
I love our country.
Moving forward from that, we didn't learn any lessons, and we kept things like that Phaeton Roadster in use. That's not a staff car. That's not an officer's car. That's meant to be driven around the field like a Jeep.
Oh, Jesus.
No.
That's the utility car.
That's the ATGM carrier. That photo was taken in 1957.
It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, even until the sort of break of the Second World War, there was absolutely no standardization in vehicles within the Canadian military. Mostly due to the fact that, like everyone else post World War I, there was absolutely zero appetite for spending money on the things that we all swore up and down we were never going to use again. And a sort of lack of domestic production capacity. So there was really nothing to buy that we wouldn't have had to buy from the Americans. And in the height of the Depression, we didn't have money to buy things from the Americans.
And the Americans didn't have anything to sell.
Well, precisely. But moving on.
I gotta say, that Kelly Springfield would make an awesome model.
Oh, and it's not even the most egregious of some of the sort of early, 1910s, 1920s trucks that are out there. You look at some of these things, and it's a miracle that they managed to operate on roads. How they were being used at the front, I don't know. It's baffling. But then 1935 comes along, and Mother Britain starts sending out feelers, sort of recognizing that the Germans are getting feisty again and might need a good slapping, that we might need some enhanced production capacity for this newfangled mechanization fad that everybody was getting into. And so feelers went out in 1935 to sort of standardized amongst the Empire and the Commonwealth on a sort of semi-modular universal truck type chassis. The initial discussions didn't really progress very quickly or very far. There was a lot of good intentions, but not a lot of impetus to make progress forward until 1937, when things started getting real in Europe, and Ford took a stab at producing, what would eventually lead to be the prototype CMP. So what we can see here is a Morris commercial 800 weight truck, which works out to quarter ton, which was something the Brits were producing, in a semi-mass produced state, and that was sort of the pilot design that was called for. So the thing needed to be right-hand drive, cab forward as much as possible to sort of save on shipping costs. Very short wheelbase, again, so that they could be crammed into the holds of ships. And Ford took a look at the specs and cranked out the quarter-ton C8 CMP, which you can see down in the bottom right-hand side there. And then following that, we moved on to a 3/4 ton or 1,500 weight, which you can see in the top right there.
Oh yeah, so you can kind of start seeing the sort of evolution towards what ends up being a very cool truck system.
Yeah, they're not like there's not a lot of resemblance between the Morris and the Ford, but the specs were the same, right? So the wheelbase was the same, the drivetrain was the same, the power plant, we use North American engines, but the horsepower ratings and that sort of stuff were all what was spec'd out.
So they're going to slap a wide body kit on it, is what you're telling me.
What was that?
Never mind. Car humor.
You're talking to two non-car people.
Yeah, that the Morris though, I love their little attempt at camouflage bush.
Is it an attempt at camouflage, or did they just drive through something?
I think it's that one. It looks like they've hit a bush and went, oh well, camouflage now.
It's fine. It's fine.
What are we going to do?
Again, another model kit I'd love to have is that one.
Say that again?
Well, I said that would make a great model kit. There'll be the Morris CS8. Is there one of it, or?
I think there is, actually.
Ooh, I need to find it.
I don't know that it's the open cab, though.
I have a feeling someone like IGB or... Is it IGB or BG? IBG?
Yes.
I think it's that one. I think they might do one.
Quickly, to Scalemates.
Yeah. So the top right, have they got a Vickers? Is that a Vickers setup?
It might
Looks like a Vickers
be
setup.
a Colt Vickers, but I don't know.
A Colt
There was
Vickers?
nothing captured. Yeah, Colt attempted to produce Vickers guns during the First World War. It didn't go well. So it may be an actual OG Vickers, or it may be the Colt, because I do believe we ended up with a few of them. But I don't know, because there was nothing captioned in the photo.
All I'm seeing is that they've got those cool safari helmets. Those are awesome.
Yeah. So really, during the First World War, the Canadians were kind of boned when it came to equipment, because they had Colt Vickers machine guns and Ross rifles.
Yes.
Your procurement guys hated you.
Yes. Well, fuck.
Yes.
We could do an entire. I mean, it's already been done to death, but we could do an entire podcast on the Ross rifle and the absolute bananas level of corruption and collusion that was involved in that thing making it into service in the first place.
The Canadian supply and procurement situation makes the United States Marine Corps look like they're playing on easy mode.
Yeah, because there was exactly two people that thought the Ross rifle was actually going to be functional in the field, and yet we still ended up with them.
And those are two people that never went into the field, I bet.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was Charles Ross, and then Numbnuts, our Minister of Militia.
Yeah, because this is going against the Marine Corps, who in Guadalcanal landed with M1903s, thinking that they were better than the M1 Garand at the time. So it was an anti-aircraft battery where the only units issued with M1 Garand.
Garands.
It's like they were the most well armed fucking unit out of the Marine Corps at the time because they thought the bolt action was better for some reason. Nice planning.
Because crayons. All right, moving on. So, the players in all of this. First up, GM Canada. Founded in 1907 as McLaughlin Motors. Originally sort of made custom coaches, fancy cars, but they were built on Buick chassis. And their home plant was in Oshawa.
Woo! Let's go.
Who fucking put Crackhead Alley represent in there? God damn it, I should have.
So interesting tidbit of history. So the gentleman who started McLaughlin Motors, he actually has a mansion which is located right beside the hospital in downtown Oshawa, and it's where a lot of movies are actually filmed, like X-Men. Just a little
Okay,
bit
that's
of trivia
right.
there for you.
That's the school in X-Men, right?
Yes, my physics professor was actually in that movie when they were shooting it in Oshawa.
Is your physics professor Patrick Stewart?
No.
Oh.
He had a minor role. But yes, Oshawa trivia. That's about the only cool thing about this place, other than the CMP production.
Well, there you go. So yeah, 3 plants, Oshawa, Windsor, and Regina. Oshawa produced all the wheeled vehicles that GM cranked out. Windsor and Regina were responsible for anti-aircraft guns and some naval armament and stuff like that. As you can see, cranked out over 300,000 vehicles during the war, including CMPs and variants, which is a pretty impressive number considering it was a single factory in a, essentially a slightly oversized farm town with no real history of major industrial production up until the war period. And then if we go to 4A here, Ford. Bird. Founded in 1904 as Walkerville Wagon Works to avoid tariff costs because there was some shenanigans with the Brits and Americans about having to pay extra licensing fees for a branded Ford versus something that was a Ford and just had a different name plant on it. Plant located in Walkerville, which is now part of Windsor, Ontario. Scenic, beautiful, wonderful Windsor. And again, cranked out another 330 some odd thousand vehicles, including 200,000 CMPs. So the big fun fact in all of this is that anybody who knows cars nowadays recognizes that GM and Ford don't play together in the sandbox, right? These are huge rivals. When the sort of clouds of war really started brewing up over Europe, it was actually Ford and GM that came together voluntarily and said, no, we'll do this sort of together, and standardized on one production model between the two companies, which I think is probably the first time, at least maybe, well, not ever, because I guess there's crossovers nowadays between companies, but one of the rare few times where 2 major rival auto manufacturers have come together and gone, no, we'll build the same thing at the same time.
And then they probably realized just how much more money they get by doing that and just went, we'll just keep it this way.
Yeah. All right, next, Dennis. So like I said, built by Ford and GM, over 500,000 CMP chassis built between 1940 and 1945. Not a huge amount when you consider the total volume of vehicles that were produced by other nations, but considering it was being built in a small population base with limited history of industrial production, it's still a very impressive number. 90 different chassis and body configurations.
Jesus.
Yep. But everything's standardized. Right?
So you could take parts out of one chassis and put it in a different one that's a totally different vehicle, and they'll still work within reason.
With a few exceptions, yeah. There was a few differences in wheelbases. So obviously, the box bodies built for long wheelbase trucks won't fit on the short wheelbase trucks and so forth. But you could swap the body out from a general service and drop a water tank on it, or an office body, or pull the cab off of. And actually, the cabs were standardized, so you could pull the cab off a scrapped 3/4 tonner and throw it onto a 3-tonner that needed a replacement, and away you went. And
Damn.
it was actually funny. So I've been building a CMP water tanker, God help me, and through a cock-up of instructions, didn't actually have the instructions for the water tank at the time, but what I did have laying around were parts for the general service box body, but I needed bows to make a roof. I had bows left over from a Fordson WOT6 truck, which was not part of the CMP line, but was built to the same specifications and standards that these were laid out to. And even in 1/35th scale across 2 different manufacturers, the bows from that one kit fit the other kit perfectly. Like, that's the level of standardization that the Brits were shooting for here, is that they could have parts commonality across a whole range of places to ease, logistics and maintenance, and it did actually work.
Damn, that's pretty impressive.
Well, there's a reason why they won the war.
So yeah, 3/4 ton through 3-ton capacity, 4x2, 4 and 6x6 drivetrains, and then there were unarmored variants. We'll get into some of the details now. So these are in British measurements, but I've tried to translate them where I can. So the 800 weight, which works out to a 1/4 ton in normal language, general service was the first sort of standardized production variant to come off the assembly lines. Had a 101-inch wheelbase, 4x2 drive, which everybody very quickly found out didn't actually work that well on a military vehicle. 85 to 90 horsepower engine, depending on if it was GM or Ford, because they used 2 different engines. And like I said, obsolete by the start of the war, but they kept them around for doing, good road logistics work, errands, and minor training exercises.
So it's kind of like
in Canada and UK.
Just a general ute, then.
Just a general ute, just a pickup. And sorry, not 1/4 ton, half ton pickup truck. So this is your Ford Ranger of the start of the war. And then we move on to the 3/4 ton, which would become the sort of most mass-produced chassis and wheelbase combination that there was. Still the same 101-inch wheelbase, and still the same 85 to 90 horsepower engine. And these came primarily as general service, so like your pickup truck. There's fitted for wireless wreckers. They had radar trucks, water bowsers, and machine shops and battery charging. So they had a few with small sort of office bodies on the back for doing field maintenance work. There was 40,000 or so of this variant produced.
Seems strange, like the number it's produced, and yet you try and find one nowadays, and it's like near impossible.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
there are a few out here in Oshawa, I think.
There are a few. There's actually, we'll get to it towards the end. There's a huge collector's market in Australia of these things.
And
specifically localized only to Australia, like nowhere else but Australia.
Well, because the Aussies end up sort of semi-domestically producing these things. So we would send over chassis, and they were making their own cabs and what have you for them. And I think because they never really went overseas with the Australian Army, they stuck around longer. Whereas we shipped everything to Europe, and then nobody wanted to pay to ship back.
So we just left it, most of it, in what? I guess the
we
Netherlands?
left it there, and then nobody in Europe, for the most part, kept it going. They just gave them to farmers, and they drove them until they fell apart.
The Dutch were like, what the hell are we supposed to do with all these trucks?
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the post-war uses, because there were some interesting examples.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know that we've got. I've sent you photos of one that's Canadian built that was brought back to New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I've sent you photos of that one. It was nice. Yeah. It was a very nice restoration. That one was good.
Yeah, they've done good jobs. So the 30 hundredweight, so your 1.5 ton, which would be your sort of mid-sized cargo version. This is the longer wheelbase, 134 inches. These were all 4-wheel drive, and the same 85 to 90 horsepower engine. If you've been paying attention, truck sizes and our weights are going up, but our horsepower isn't. So I bet you can start putting those together.
So, question for you, Don. I don't know if you would be aware of this or not, but as these new trucks were getting made, throughout the war, were there any reports of them being, were people complaining about them being less powerful or
Yep.
like underpowered?
Yep.
Fair enough.
Let me guess, they started getting slower and less capable, and
Yep. So one of the first theaters that these were sort of deployed to en masse operationally was Italy.
Oh,
And
great! Yeah, well
anybody
known for
knows
being very
anything about
hospitable
Italy,
terrain.
it's a lot of vertical and not a lot of horizontal. But these things were apparently mountain goats. They
Just
would
like
climb
Jack
for,
Siltus.
yeah, they will climb for days. They just do it at a walking pace.
so it's like a wheeled Churchill.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, at least it got there eventually.
Yeah, like the theoretical on road top speed, I think is, I had it written down here somewhere. I think it's 50-ish miles an hour,
That's not bad, actually.
right? But that's the like on paper on a smooth road.
You're only
Best
hitting
case
that
scenario.
who's driving down the other side
Best
of the mountain.
case scenario, not filled to the tits with
Dudes.
rounds of 25-pounder and dudes. So
And a 25-pounder.
and towing the 20. Actually, these didn't really get used as prime movers because they weren't very effective at it. But we will get to the one variant that was though. Next. And now we gave up on 100 weights for some reason, and we just switched to the 3-ton. So these came in a sort of medium wheelbase or a long wheelbase, and 4x4, 4x6, or 6x6, and the same 85 to 90 horsepower
my God.
in these things.
God, when are they going to learn?
They didn't. They never did.
That poor engine is just at this point like on suicide watch.
Right? And then the 10.5 and the 3-tonners were really your general service trucks again. So your heavy cargo, as well as ambulances, command vehicles, heavy recovery vehicles, and the 3-tonners were actually converted into 20 and 40 millimeter self-propelled AA. So they were outfitted with 20 millimeter Polston guns or single 40 millimeter Bofors.
And you couldn't find a photo of either of those?
No, he just
We'll
chose
get there.
not to because he wanted to dangle that in front of us.
We'll get there. I actually couldn't find a photo of the Bofors mount.
Really?
Yeah, I don't
That
know.
seems
if
odd because like, you would think that would be a fairly common thing.
You would think so. I just don't know if it wasn't terribly widely produced or if I was just looking in the wrong place. I'm not sure. But we'll get. There's a picture of the 20 millimeter coming up.
Ooh.
And then there was the HUP, so the heavy utility personnel.
Let me guess. Heavy utility, same engine?
Same engine.
Same engine!
But
Woo!
the heavy doesn't really factor into the weight. It's on the same 3/4 ton chassis as the GS truck, but this was sort of the prototype Hummer. So they were fitted up as things like staff cars, radio cars, but with off-road capability. Right, so it's before the Hummer was turned into like the weird Operation Iraqi Freedom up armored sort of
like Generation
war
Kill
wagon.
looking thing.
Yeah, this
They should have kept the Hummer
was,
as this.
exactly. This is what it was meant for.
You know, Dennis,
So-
I've just realised looking at that photo there, that's the MMP.
That is
Going
the
by
It is
MMP
MMP
basically
recording
that
studio.
guy is the predecessor to the MMP. Yeah,
That's
he's about
Dennis
to
right
spit
there.
some straight bars too. Look at him; he's getting ready. He's got the pose going on.
Next, and now my favorite
Ooh.
quad.
Ooh.
So here's
I love the quad.
here's your
Angles.
prime mover variant. This was originally again a sort of a riff on the Morris C8 quad. Pulled either a 17 pounder or a 25 pounder. They're cool. These are my favorites.
What's with the sloping back though? Like, what was the purpose of that?
I don't know. There was nothing that I've ever been able to read has explained the decision on the body type. There were 3 or 4 different riffs on the shape of these things. Ford and Chevrolet, this is one of the few where the actual cab design varies a little bit. So the angles on the two vary slightly, but there's no. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I have no idea what it is. All I know is that it's what makes it look cool. If it was a big square box, I don't think it would be nearly as interesting a vehicle.
Although you would imagine it would be still a bit more useful because you could just throw shit in the back.
Yeah, a lot of these had racks homebrewed onto the back. There was also space on the roof for a spare tire.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the original, actually, for all of the CMPs, the original sort of beginning third of the production run, they all used run flat tires. So there was no production or provision made for carrying spare tires on any of these. And then as the war progressed, they realized that run flat tires used a lot more rubber than a regular pneumatic tire would. So the models further on had integration for spare tire carriers. So you'll see it wedged often behind, between the cab and whatever box or body is on the back of them. But all of the original ones that didn't have provision for it, they ended up having to find places to hang spare tires off of. So one of these was, well, we'll just stick it on the roof because there's a big flat spot.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
And then these are one of the vehicles that, again, primarily because they see so much sort of semi-independent field use, but one of the big complaints from the quad was that there was never enough storage for anything, because these were going out with entire gun crews, strapped inside of them. So you can see in that second image, there's a empty 25-pounder ammunition box just jammed in the bumper. That's probably not filled with ammunition. I guarantee you that's filled with rations or somebody's clothing or what have you. They were also frequently just welded straight onto the bumpers, and again, all sorts of homebrew cargo racks on the back to put all your personal kit in.
Now, don't Tamiya have a kit for this one?
Yes, it's ancient.
I was going to say, I've heard it's not that good.
It's 70s to me. It
fits well. It's lacking in detail. There's, the most barest of bonesest interior, but it fits well and it looks good. It's actually the Ford chassis.
All I'm just saying is, like, if you had this nowadays, all those nice flat surfaces, imagine just decking that out with ERA.
Oh no! Yeah. Oh god.
Quickly, where are their little shark dudes when we need them?
Yeah.
Except,
yes. Imagine a truck covered in Contact 5.
Like the Contact 5 would detonate and take the truck with it.
I was going to say I don't know what the thickness of the plating on these things is, but I'm
not very.
Pretty sure it's less than the width of my thumb.
Hey John, you know that sheet metal that you can get at hobby stores?
No, but okay.
Yeah, like it's the brass sheets you can get at hobby stores.
Yeah. The stuff like
it's
you can
made
roll
out
your
of
own
that.
tubes or whatever. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me sort of thing.
Yeah. We're denying it to the enemy.
All right, what you got next? So I couldn't find a really good shot of an interior that really highlighted just how comically stupid the arrangement of this thing is, but this comes pretty close. So that pan you see with the X in it is where the seat cushion should be. The accelerator is the round pedal on the right. The brake is the square thing directly under the steering column, and the clutch is the round thing off in the left-hand corner. And I'm guessing there's maybe 8 inches of clearance between the curve of that fender and the side of the doghouse. And as as our good friend the chieftain said, he couldn't get both his feet in there at the same time. And I've read a couple of forums of people who have restored CMPs, and they all agree. They're like, no, if you're anything over about 5'6", you are not operating one of these vehicles. But I think part of the problem is that these were built to British specifications, and the Brits were just physically smaller in stature than a lot of the people that ended up operating these things.
All the Guinness they drank as children stunted their growth.
Yeah, well, that, Victorian workhouses and the Depression and just, general
Everything.
slum life, instead of all the big strapping farm boy myth of the average Canadian soldier. These things were also known to be notoriously hot in the summer because, as you can see, you're sitting basically on top of the cylinder block because of the cab over design. Yeah, great in the winter, but not so much driving through mountain passes in Italy in August.
Or North Africa or something like
Or
that.
North Africa or all the other places that these serve. Yeah, these things must have just been absolutely horrendous in the desert. But then again, so was everything else.
Yeah, anything with moving parts in a desert is just no.
And at least these, there's photos where, guys have just cut the entire cabs off for airflow, which, you can't do in a Crusader or a Matilda. So
Yeah, you know what you'd rather be in.
So, here's where my script goes off the rails because it's out of order. So, modified conventional patterns. So this was the sort of precursor to the CMP. What these were was kind of an emergency rush order right at the beginning of the war, where they just took straight standard commercial truck chassis and made a couple of token considerations to military use. So like tires, brakes, bumpers, stuff like that. And shipped them overseas. And the most famous example being, of course, the Long Range Desert Group.
So these are basically technicals.
These are technicals in every sense of the word. This is the 1930s Hilux. They're Chevy WB-30 pickup trucks, and they've just been,
Modified for desert use.
Completely modified for desert use.
Want to know a fun fact about the LRDG?
Most of them were Kiwis.
Most of them were Kiwi surveyors.
Really?
Well, they wanted Kiwis because back then we're known for being good for harsh conditions. We just kind of put up with it. And surveyors, because you can't, like, compasses and stuff in deserts don't work that well.
Don't work that well.
So you need, it's like, well, why don't we get a guy who already knows where he is at all times? And it should be impossible for a surveyor to get himself lost.
The Kiwi surveyor knows where he is at all times. This is because he knows where he is not.
Yeah, and right now he's in the desert, so he knows he's not back at home where it's nice and cool.
So what's your excuse, Callum?
There's not a war going on.
Says you.
Correction, there's not a war going on where being a surveyor in the desert is a particularly useful skill.
Yeah.
Sure, we could find somewhere. I'm sure the Ukrainians would like to know where they are.
Callum is going to challenge the Russians to a duel in the desert.
Ukrainians know where they are. The Russians are having a bit of difficulty.
That's true.
The favorite thing about the Russians is that they're using radio guns in 2023. So proud of them. Good job.
Wait, really?
Yes, they're using the oboe system. Well, it's not actually oboe, but it's the same.
But...
It's a slightly more precise variant of oboe. They don't have because their GLONASS. The GLONASS is not working properly right now.
On purpose or just because?
Well, let me think. So their guided missile, their PGMs are using oboe right now, and GLONASS is not accurate enough. So they're either using civilian Garmins or radio guns.
To be honest, the civilian Garmin would probably be hooked onto the GPS system, so it'll be much better.
Well, that's the whole point, yeah.
GLONASS sucks.
It is terrible.
Oh, that pleases me on a number of levels.
That's why none of their PGMs are actually hitting the proper targets. If you ever wondered why, that's why.
So the V1 tactic wasn't intentional, is what you're saying?
No, they were pointed at actual real targets, but they just couldn't hit anything because The missile does not know where it is at all times. It knows where it is, but not where it isn't.
Oh,
and
good
it
job,
doesn't know where
Conrad.
it's supposed to go. So it's like the what was that useless cruise missile the Americans had, the Tomahawk?
Oh, there's a. Now you take that back. That's not fair. Hey,
Well, like, didn't the Americans send like 60 Tomahawks at a target once, and only like a handful actually made it?
don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right, moving on.
Yeah,
That's why I'm
before we
skeptical
talk
about
more
that.
about the tomahawks,
That's why I'm skeptical
Mickey
about
Mouse.
like Top Gun Maverick when it's like we're going to fire all these cruise missiles and they all hit their target where they're supposed to. It's like, nah, that's fantasy.
I'm
And
going to
then we
hold my
come
tongue
to-
on this.
All right. And now we come to the redheaded stepchild of the CMP universe, the Dodge, because Dodge made them too.
Doge.
So the plan initially was for the same as the Chevy and the Ford, that these were going to be 100% standardized and we're all going to crank out the same thing. But when it came down to it, Dodge put their hands up and went, we could do that, but that's going to take time for us to retool and all of that sort of jazz. Or we will just keep cranking out these D60 truck bodies and we can just slap standard CMP cargo modules on the back.
I mean, not a terrible
Everyone-
idea.
No, and everyone, that's a great idea. So the majority of them were 3-ton D60s and just fitted as GS. So these were just being used as cargo schleppers. But they were only built as 4x2 rear-wheel drive, just because that's what the standard truck drivetrain already was.
You know, I will say
80,000 of them.
I will say one thing about the Canadians. They did paint their trucks to look good.
That is drippy as hell.
Yeah, that's a nice camo scheme they've painted on it.
So it's not just the Canadians. That's actually
That's
British,
a Commonwealth thing, isn't that?
Yeah.
It's the dapple pattern, sometimes called
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, so the Mickey Mouse variant was the initial one was a lot more like jagged foliage looking lines, and then everyone realized that it was a lot easier if we just paint these big blobs. So the War Office went, all right, fine. So it was never officially adopted as a camouflage pattern, but everybody tolerated it.
I will say the little Canadian maple leaf flash there, though, it does make it look pretty good.
Yes, it does pop.
I mean, it's
Next.
not like a greatly painted one. Ooh, hello.
Ooh, it's getting some air there.
Right?
That suspension is going to bottom out so hard.
You hit one speed bump and that tire's going through the bed.
So there's your 20 millimeter Callum.
Oof.
Ooh.
That's actually quite a good looking mount.
Right?
Like, it looks like
So
a 1980s arcade.
Yeah. Like something from American Gladiator that should be shooting giant Nerf balls at people.
Yeah.
So here's your mostly, but not probably entirely comprehensive list of all of the various roles that these things were pressed into. So it's pretty impressive what they managed to slap onto a token handful of chassis variants.
Jesus. So we got General Service, Troop Carrier, SPAA, Office Body, Wireless, Ambulance, Dental, Wrecker, Tanker, Prime Mover, Shop Body, Field Kitchen, Field Hygiene, so just toilet, Cable Layer, that goes
And
with the Field Hygiene.
laundry as well.
See, it shows
right.
you like how much there is, that's not actually directly combat related. That goes into staying in operation.
Oh, the tail is always bigger than the teeth, right? There's an actual ratio, and it's escaping me right now, of like how many rear echelon personnel it takes to sustain one fighting soldier. And it's pretty close to like 10 to 1.
Yeah, something like that. It's like at an enormous amount. So like the actual people the number of people that did the fighting, like, only tallied up to like 5% or something like that. It was something like ridiculously low.
No, it's nuts. And thank you for reading that out, Callum, because I do forget that not everybody watches this on YouTube.
Yes, this does go on Spotify, so some things have to be announced.
Nerds on Spotify.
Or just
Yeah.
come watch it on YouTube. Come on.
Oh, I like the Cypher truck. They basically took like my ancestor, just shoved him into a truck with like a 1940s desktop computer with like the glowing little
It's
RGB
just
lights.
a bunch of plug boards and a typewriter.
Yeah, but they're like RGB plug boards. They've got the backlight on them.
What the hell's a portee? Portee?
So you could take a
Oh, put the gun on.
put the gun on. So the idea is that you take a like a 2-pounder anti-tank gun on its wheeled chassis, throw it in the back of the pickup truck, drive around, and you could either go bang bang mounted, or take the thing off and then emplace it like you would a towed artillery piece.
Porty.
It's a bastardized version of the French word for carry.
That I need to have a look. I need to see what that looks like. That looks cool.
The laboratory is cool as well. Like, yeah, you just have a bunch of university students shoved into this CMP. Like, they're not actually doing anything, but they're there just in case.
No. You want to take a guess at what the laboratory was probably doing?
Gas.
Testing dudes for VD.
Yeah, fair.
And gas and other, the hygiene testing.
The dumpers.
Most of it was for dealing with drippy dick.
Yeah, something tells me that wouldn't be like a service that you would brag about. I was in the military. What'd you do? Looked at dicks all day.
Well, that's
Were
I
you
mean,
in
hey,
the Navy?
that sounds fun.
That's why medics are called pecker checkers.
What if you're in the Navy? Then it's just standard seaman.
That's just your day to day.
You get to see all this for free,
right? So there were a couple of varyingly successful attempts at armoring the CMP chassis. We have the Otter light reconnaissance car, the CT-15 armored truck, and then the CT-15 TA armored ambulance. These are all on the 1,500 weight chassis again. The Otters, we cranked out 1,000 or so of them. They're, if you can't see the picture, go Google it, because they're pretty hilarious to look at.
They're awesome. I love the Otter.
Basically, like, proof against rifle caliber ammunition. They were armed with a Bren and a Boys anti-tank rifle. The Boys is in a semi-fixed mount, firing out the front.
I wonder how often that was used for just anti-infantry instead of
honestly,
anti-tank.
I have a feeling that they were basically just taken out.
Yeah.
Because it just takes up so much bloody room, and was obsolete, before the first shots were fired anywhere. These were most often issued out to engineer companies, so they could use them as an armored reconnaissance vehicle. And then the CT armored truck, again, the 1,500 weight chassis, and these actually were very well received in the field, but they didn't enter sort of widespread service until a bit later in the war. You could fit half a dozen guys in the back, and it was the sort of, proto APC. It's not completely armored. You can, again, if you can see that picture, you can see there's just a sort of canvas tarpaulin covering the troop area, but the driver's compartment, the sides were armored, and it gave a little better oomph off-road, and could get you into some slightly hairier situations than you could in the back of a regular truck. And then on the same platform was the CT-15 TA armored ambulance. Had a 4-liter capacity, but by the time it was brought into development, it was deemed sort of surplus to requirement. So they actually built 2 prototypes, one of which is sitting in the Canadian War Museum right now.
And let me guess, armored ambulance, you either have a model of one or you desperately want a model of one.
Nope, I have it. It's the other mirror model that I built that I almost catapulted across the room, but I did manage to shoehorn it into something that looks vaguely square from a distance.
You must really love CMPs if you're willing to build 2 mirror models of them.
Well, the problem is, up until recently, Mirror was the only people producing it. We'll get into that with the kits at the end of the slides, but I just think they're neat. The Poles also got a whack of Otters, and they served with the Polish armored units, and apparently they quite liked them. And I know my title for this is a groaner, but it's look, deal with it.
What is that rhino, dude? What the hell?
That
Oh
thing is
my
awesome.
God.
Right? So again, more photos worth Googling if you're not watching this. So on top of being produced in North America, we would ship either knockdown kits or just chassis to the Australians and the Indians. And the Aussies built a couple of real wacko armored car bodies on them that, like every other Australian armored vehicle that was produced during the war, sat at home in a garage, and probably for the best. But there you have it. So yeah, we've got the Australian Rover, which I don't even know how to describe it. It's
It's a thing.
it's a thing.
It's a box.
And then I was remiss because I didn't actually write down what the turret that they slapped on the Rhino is from. So
Well, that looks like it might be maybe from a cruise. The mantlet looks like it's from a Crusader.
But I
Yeah.
know, but I think it's domestically produced.
Yeah.
Let me.
It's definitely
Google
got
food
parts from a Crusader, though. Or even a, it's almost Covenator
I
type.
was going to say, is that Covenator? Well, no, there's not enough rivets.
I'm Google fooing this as we speak because
I do like that, the half track. That's literally, it looks like a CMP, and they've just put on, I want to say,
The
a
universal
universal carrier onto
Yeah,
the back.
that's literally just the universal carrier.
That's actually kind of
so
smart.
it is a Crusader turret. There you go.
Crusader. That'll be a Crusader 1, Mark 1 then.
Yeah, with the
2-pounder.
2-pounder and a Vickers coax.
Yeah. You can see just on the left of the gun barrel the big ass gun shield for the Vickers there.
And
what's the difference for the Indian pattern?
They were home built by the Indian Railway Works.
You can see the differences, eh? Like it looks like the front is just one big plate, as opposed to say the others that are like bent.
Yeah, and they're riveted instead of welded, which you can see too if you're looking at the picture closely.
Oh yeah, so one decent high explosive will turn the whole thing into a shrapnel bomb.
I mean, yeah, but it's also an open top sort of semi-armored car as it is, so it's not going to take much to turn it into splinters. And then the Aussies took a one-off and tried to make one into a half-track too, but it, like with most half-track experiments, ended up having the turning radius of a battleship, and it was just left alone.
I mean, it looks cool at least.
Yeah, it looks neat. But yeah, the wheelbase on them was too narrow, and it just wouldn't steer worth a damn. So, and the one having a moment, the one thing I forgot to include in there, unless I've remembered to include it, the Canadians also built a Fox armored car on the same chassis, which kind of took the body of a Humber armored car and slapped it onto a CMP chassis. And here we have finders keepers time. So, as I said earlier, a pile of these ended up in the Western Desert, and therefore a pile of them ended up in the hands of the bad guys. So the Italians took a few of them and strapped Beretta cannon onto the back of them, which looks like be an absolute riot to plug away with. And you can also see that the Germans took a 20 millimeter flak and dropped it onto the bed. So we aren't the only creative ones.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So retirement is not an option. So like we said, these
even in death do they serve.
Right? Lots of service post-war. The Aussies turned a pile of them into brush fire trucks, like you can see. They, I'm assuming this is... I mean, they've stripped a lot of the guts off, but I bet you that's just a standard water bowser that was taken and repainted red, and they added a couple of, probably heavy-dutier pumps to it.
I hope they changed the engine out to something a bit more substantial.
Nope, still the old 85 horsepower.
I guarantee you it's still the same engine.
It's like there's a building on fire, you need to get to it. Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
They also did duty as wreckers post-war and probably served quite well. They were torquey little machines, so they've got a lot of grunt for what they are. And then probably one of my favorite post-war variants is the top corner there. The Israelis turned them into what are known as sandwich vans, and they're basically home-built Israeli APCs that were used during the 1948 Independence War. I don't think there were a ton of them. In fact, if I recall correctly, a couple of these were like everything else on the sly, just handed over intact by sympathetic British units. These also ended up serving post-war with Portugal, Malaysia, and with the French in Indochina. And they floated around in the Canadian Army well into the 1960s.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah.
We actually took some of them to Korea with us as well.
I swear you're about to say Vietnam then, and I wouldn't have been surprised.
No. But we were still fighting them fighting with them in Korea. And there is still a big collector market. These are really popular trucks. They're they're novel. They're easy to maintain. Parts availability probably isn't what it used to be, but most of the stuff you can fix with a roll of tape and a hammer. Next.
Ooh,
Right.
models.
Here's the wide variety of model options.
And none of them were built after 1990.
None of them on this page. The next page we get to some more modern stuff. So yeah, the OG is the Peerless Max CMP truck, and it has been rebadged and reboxed hundreds of times because the Italeri one is the same truck and the same molds. The Tamiya, pardon me, the Tamiya, as we've already mentioned, ResiCast at some point cranked out an entire resin shop truck, which I would love to be able to lay my hands on, but I don't know that I have enough sanity left to even attempt something of that detail made entirely of resin. The Haganah sandwich van there, I think, is made by Azimuth. I don't have any idea what the availability of that is like, but in theory it does exist out there. And then if you go to the next one,
Oh, look, your favorite.
Oh, nice.
So for those of you not familiar with Mirror Models, they are ostensibly an Irish firm, or at least they had their headquarters in Ireland at one point. But I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that my recent dealings with them, that is no longer the case. These are the absolute textbook example of short-run, garage-built masterpieces of engineering. I should have posted a picture of it here, but the instruction sheets on the first kit that I got of the armored ambulance were inkjet printed on 8.5 by 11 paper, and the actual images are just pictures of this dude's workbench with arrows done in probably Microsoft Word pointing at various parts and identifying the alleged part numbers. But the builds just come in like sections. So all of a sudden there's like 36 parts that have been added in the next picture, half of which probably haven't been labeled. It's an adventure. Linear building is not an option with those kits. Be prepared for suffering. That's all I can say. But on the good news front, IBG has started cranking out a whole pile of them in the last couple of years in 35th and 72nd. And the C60 ambulance is set to hit shelves soonish, I think.
I like the box art for that C38 General Service. The IBG one on the right.
There's two of them, Dennis.
Yeah, are you talking the 35th or the 72nd?
72,
one?
the 72 scale one.
Oh, with the airborne guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. IPG does some good box art. They're bringing it back. I like it.
Yeah, I like the otter. I really want the otter.
It was it was less of a bastard to build than the mirror models ones are. There were hang-ups because you see the slats in the front grille.
Yeah.
Those are all individual. So
Nice.
getting them to sit where they need to sit for long enough for your glue to harden is a challenge. But it is doable, and it builds up into a really cool kit. The inside's actually really well detailed. It comes with a actually really nice number 19 set. It comes with a handful of Enfields that are fit into racks on the walls. It's quite a nice kit.
This is the one where you did really good high detail on the radio, and then a certain someone on the server wondered why you went through so much detail. Was that something else?
No. That was a universal carrier.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, the radio on this is the shame with this one is, although you can at least open the doors, it comes with a beautiful interior. But even if you open every single port, you still really got to get your eyeball into it to actually see anything.
That's a pity, but oh well.
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing about armored vehicles is you're not supposed to be able to see into them too much. So it's
Well,
like
right.
a lot of interior, like full interior kits, are like, well, you don't see it unless you make it so you can pull it apart. But at that point, it's sort of like,
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I got, boys. That's the CMP. Go learn something. So here's my references. If you can get it, I highly recommend Drive to Victory. It was supposed to be a 2-volume set, but unfortunately, Clive Law passed away in 2017, I believe. So Volume 2 will not be forthcoming, but it's probably the most comprehensive guide to Canadian soft-skin vehicles that exist.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Don.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys. That was fun.
That was very well presented.
I actually learned quite a lot.
Well, good.
Yeah. All right.
Alrighty,
So-
piss break.
Yep. Sounds good to
Sold.
me.
This episode is brought to you by Autoloader Decals. Have you wandered round the shelves of your local hobby store and found that perfect model kit? Great tooling, fun to build, and look, you remember seeing the subject. Perhaps it was a truck in the ubiquitous white UN paint scheme in the newspaper, or maybe it was a Sherman tank from your local armour unit. Everything is lining up for a fantastic new project, one with a more interesting connection to yourself, instead of a project derived from a history book. Then you open the kit, and there are none of those specific markings to be found. Waterslide decals really put the final touch on a model, and unfortunately for the model maker, most kit manufacturers won't put too much time into designing decals that produce a finished model in anything but its most stereotypical form. That's why Autoloader Decals exists. It is their sincere hope that you'll be able to find as much enjoyment using these special water slides as they have. Autoloader Decal products are primarily focused on Canadian subjects, but in general, if you're looking for markings that represent vehicles from lesser known parts of modern history, chances are you might just be able to find something worth trying. The waterslide decals are printed through an inkjet printer and sealed with a high quality varnish to ensure their strength on the model. Unlike most other water slides, these decals only need to be submerged for a few seconds and can be placed right onto the model. They are incredibly tough and won't yellow over time. For an added benefit, decals intended for 1:35 scale are treated with a special varnish that gives a subtle, painted-on look that's both in scale and more realistic than other brands' offerings. All the products currently in production are listed in the store page. If you have a custom design you would like to order, the best way of making this order is to send an email through the contact page. Generally, the cost of a custom order will be 40 to 50% higher than any products that are in stock to account for labour. Also, as a special deal, if you are ordering a set of custom decals and you mention the Micro Machines podcast, you'll receive a free exclusive MMP Pinju decal with your order. So next time you're looking to build a specific or unique vehicle, look towards Autoloader Decals. Just go to www.autoloadermodels.ca for all your waterslide decal needs. And now, back to the show.
Speaking of coping and seething,
Pinju!
Pinju with the press kit. Dodging bullets, it's Shizuoka.
And guess who's going to cope and seethe with the very first slide here?
Ugh.
Scale modeling news are going to cope and seethe. So, mini art, first up, are releasing. Oh, look, it's another truck. It is a US Army G7 105 4x4 1.5 ton panel delivery truck. This comes with 5 decals, photo etch. Yeah, it's just a truck.
It's a truck. Tacom is continuing with their 1:72 scale theme. They are releasing a 2-in-1 kit. For the M60s. They are releasing the
Ooh.
M60A1 with the ERA package that we saw on tanks during Desert Storm, as well as an M60A3, which is, I will say, just looking at the box right here, it's pretty interesting because at least one of the decal schemes, this being for the M60A3, is actually a U.S. Air Force scheme. But yeah, they're going to feature the usual Tacom stuff, photo etch, link tracks, and so on and so forth. And if these are going to be anything like the Chieftain in 72 scale that they released earlier, it should be pretty decent. Definitely nice to see more modern stuff coming out in 72 scale.
Yeah, question. Why does the Air Force need a tank?
Maybe airfield defense? Maybe?
There is a story to that, and I can't remember what the hell it is. Hold on a second.
It also seems weird to me that the M60A1 gets an ERA package and is used in the desert, and yet the A3 looks so Vietnam era, it's ridiculous. Even though, like, isn't the A3 supposed to be the updated A1?
The A3 is significantly better than the A1, and it's mostly going to be... The main upgrade was in the fire control system because the A3 had the digitized fire control system that used thermal optics.
So then why did they send the A1 into the desert?
Marines.
Okay, that's enough. Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
They get whatever everyone else doesn't want. That's fine. It looks horrendous with ERA blocks on it as well. Like, I do not like M60s with ERA. Does have link and length tracks though. In that kit.
An M60 with ERA is what drove me to start building HIDF vehicles because I could not be bothered
That's true,
to.
yeah.
The ancient Academy one.
Yeah. Okay, up next from U-Star in 1/48, they have a T90A. So this is link and length tracks. Hatches can be opened or closed. 2 markings. And I do believe you should be able to make a diorama of this with the hull and chassis in one area and the turret somewhere else. If you want. I do believe they've probably made it so they can be easily separated from one another, you know? I mean, that's just good marketing. Yeah, I've never even seen U-Star. Who's U-Star?
No idea.
I mean, this is kit number 7, so I haven't seen any of the other releases.
Is it kit number 7 though?
Who knows?
Or did they just start their serial numbers at 6?
U-Star made a 48 scale Tiger 1.
Boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 very boring kits then. Next. So, from Special Hobby, we have 3 notable... Well, there's 2 noticeable and 1 that I just want to include because one would have made Garrison wet, but he's not here. So up first in the bottom left, we have a T2 Buckeye in 1/32 scale. A very, very ugly looking jet trainer for the Americans. Like that. It's not a pretty aircraft, is it?
No, they are stout looking.
They look like they're like the Bumblebee. They look like they shouldn't fly.
Yeah, aerodynamics only through sheer willpower.
It's like the Phantom, the triumph of raw power over aerodynamics.
Right.
Yeah. Up next, we have the 1/48 Grinnell Baby 2B, a German World War II glider. I like how Special Hobby here. The Germans did have the swastika on the tail. They've gone for an alternative design just to,
sanitize things.
Yeah, but
make those other markets happy.
Yeah, but it's a little 1-seater glider from World War II. That'll be kind of a interesting subject to build. Like looking at the sprues, is about 7 pieces to it. Yeah, there's like fuck all pieces to it, so that's like a weekend warrior kit. And also, I just wanted to include in their resin 3D resin parts, they have a 1:35 scale M1917 heavy machine gun. So that is the OG American heavy machine gun with the water-cooled jacket, eventually turning into the M1919 that had the air-cooled jacket and was a lot lighter and whatnot. But the M1917 still used throughout the war because as a defensive machine gun with the water cooling, you could fire the thing for hours.
Ever?
Yeah, as long as you wanted, just keep going. So, yeah, nicely detailed. It's got the tripod, it's got everything, photo etch on it. It would look pretty cool as a kit. I wouldn't mind having it just for a diorama.
Agreed.
Next from
man.
Rodin, we have
Wow. Oh,
in
God.
35th scale an Opel Blitzbus Ludwig Aero. I've never seen a transport bus like this before. It's interesting. That's got to have like a radial engine or something like that in it. Just looking at that radiator, for the listeners, it's basically think of an old 1930s bus, but then make the hood or a bonnet, depending on the hemisphere. Instead of making it a square, rectangle, or anything, making it a circle. That's what.
Well, a cylinder,
or a cylinder, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. I struggle to. It looks like a coffee can on the front of this thing.
yeah, and it's got a fin on the back. Like it's a make go faster fin on the back. But so it's comes with two schemes, just a sort of classic German grey and an Eastern Front green, both from unknown units. That's really, really helpful. But I don't know. I mean, is there something you would add to your stash?
If it wasn't from Rodin, yes, but now, no.
Have you built Rodin before?
Yes. No good.
Oh, Rodin, no
Like,
good.
Just atrocious, and our friend Clint will back me up on that.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: are they better than Academy?
No.
Oh, well, that's made
No.
me sad.
These are
Academy's
like
not even that bad anymore.
no. These are like the epitome of muscle and fight and swearing and
Well, that makes me
No.
sad because if we go to the next slide, from Rodin as well, in 32nd scale, they have a Sopwith 1.5 Strutter Comic Fighter. So the Comic Fighter was the Night Fighter version of the Sopwith Camel. These are interesting because they are coming with two variants. One that has the machine guns in the nose, as you know, all Sopwith Camels have, and another variant was they had the twin Vickers attached to the wing, the upper wing, facing up in the what's it called again, Don?
well, God, where's Val when we need him?
He was on.
Shrag music?
Schreich Music.
Yeah, there you go.
The cannons that fire upwards. Well, these Sopwith Camels have that machine guns that fire upward, and it. I mean, in that configuration, it just looks amazing, and I want one. It's a 32nd scale biplane, and I am fully into those right now, even though I can't afford them or find them. Although I did, no, I tell a lie. I have recently got one. It was an Academy 32nd scale Newport 17, which Don misinformed me on a fact.
No, the Canadian Air and Space Museum misinformed you. I was just reading off their website.
Yeah, but yeah. So
But
that's
yes, Roy Brown did not fly in Newport. I'm sorry.
yeah, but I did make his Sopwith Camel. So there's that.
Well, then do Billy Bishop's Newport because he did fly it.
But I was going to do like, if I had both of them and like one guy flying both, and then it would have made a cool
Well,
diorama. But whatever.
Yeah, but then you can have two Canadian aces.
I've already got one. I didn't even realize that was a
Fine.
Canadian aircraft. I thought it was British, and now I've got 3 Canadian aircraft. Am I Canadian?
Well,
yet?
they were British because they were Royal Flying Corps. They were just flown by Canadians. There was no Canadian Air Force.
Close enough.
Fine.
But yes,
So I have information. So apparently those Air Force Patton tanks were used in Doha, Qatar in 1991. So I'm guessing Gulf One for quote EOD purposes.
I give you one guess as to what that entails.
And that's all the information that I can find on them.
So that's
But there you go.
That package looks suspicious. Let's blow it up.
Right.
From
Exactly.
from a safe distance.
From a safe distance. And everything I can find on the Aero bus, I think that is just a body kit. So that's just a regular Opel Blitz bus, but some wackadoodle German auto designer got creative and decided to slap some ground effect kits and no doubt some underbody lighting, and I'm shocked it wasn't stanced, but there you go.
It's probably got like some shag carpet in the back, and yeah.
Yep.
But
yeah, it was small truck body workshop of Ludwig Brothers in the German city of Essen had been installing bodies of their own design on the chassis base of trucks from leading German manufacturers for years. In the 1930s, they cooperated closely with Opel and put that thing on it.
eesh.
But that's it. This is just like a retro futuristic body kit. So there you go.
Yeah, you learn something new every day. So then, circling back to this Rodin Sopwith Camel. So I wish it was done by someone else because it is an interesting subject, because you will notice differences between a standard Sopwith Camel F1 and a 1.5 Strata Comic. They are fundamentally the same aircraft. However, I do believe the nose has been elongated just a little bit. Also, the fuselage is a bit longer. Like, you can see like subtle differences within it. So, as well as different gun mountings, and yeah, it looked like, at least it's a cool subject. It's something different. So I applaud them on that.
I wonder what the price point on that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess like at least 150. I don't know. So a 32nd scale biplane. So that
I know.
literally run the gauntlet, because like you get wing nuts, which is a mortgage, and then you get Academy, which I've picked them up for like $20 each. So crapshoot. Anyway, next up.
Ooh.
So, for those who like big scale aircraft and they've probably built the 1:32 scale Lancaster.
For those of you with a 132 scale hangar in your backyard.
Yeah. HK Models are bringing out a B-17G Rose of York in 1:32 scale. This has 499 parts, photo etched, nose and a nose weight included. Decals from Cartier Graph for 2 aircraft included in this kit. So at least you know the decals are going to be pretty decent. The Rose of York kit does come with a 32nd scale model of a young Elizabeth II to go with it. Just a little bit more. So the limited edition has the young Queen Elizabeth, young Queen. Run is limited to 500 of them. So here's a few interesting facts. Dimensions: a B-17G in 1:32 scale is approximately 98.9 centimeters wide. So that's almost a meter in width, and it's about 70.7 centimeters long. So 1 meter by 70 centimeters.
So it's like 3 feet by about 2.5 for the freedom lovers amongst us.
Yeah, but yeah, like looking at my desk, I wouldn't even have the room for that at all.
No.
Like, who does?
The same people with the disposable income to be able to buy this.
Yeah, it does come with wall mounted with. It says wall mounted with mount. Not sure if that means like you can mount it on the wall as is or whatever. Comes with seat belts, air intake, reproduce and etched parts, posable flying surfaces, main landing gear selective in flying state or landing, and yeah. If you have the special kit with the Queen Elizabeth, then it has 557 parts as opposed to 449. Somehow Queen Elizabeth is made up of like 60 parts. I guess.
It's all in the flowers. Look at those flowers.
Yeah,
Each,
Right.
like,
Yeah,
leaf is
individual
an individual
flowers, an
part.
individual bloom. The wall mount intrigues me.
That'll be interesting. You definitely need to tap it into some studs, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Neat find.
Yeah, that's not a. But yeah, so anyone want to guess how much this one would cost?
I'm guessing probably about $1,000 because that's what the Lancaster from Border goes for.
Yeah. This will have to be
right.
I mean, it'll be an amazing kit to actually put together, like detail wise, like interior and all of that. But, oof.
Yeah, I'll stick to the inevitable YouTube video build that somebody does of one of these.
Yeah.
I will live vicariously.
Like I think the biggest I'll ever get with a B-17 is like 72nd scale, just because I do not have room for anything bigger in my place. But interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What do we have after this?
Ugh.
TACOM, Stug, Else F,
Great.
and Stug
Yeah.
10.5
Wonderful.
centimeter gun. Next.
Anyways, Webs.
Glad Ezra's not here.
What have you been working on, gentlemen? Both.
Oh, my stuff. So, behold, ye old Mirror Models CMP water truck.
I will say, Don, for such a crappy kit, you're making it look pretty good.
Oh God, I
Love
can't.
that camo. Look at that.
So, the camo's the best part so far. This thing is about as square as a bowl of oatmeal. I shudder to gaze upon it, but whatever. It's done. The build is done. You can see I still got to do some paint up on a couple of photo etch parts, but as long as I don't keep breaking the rear fenders and bumper off, I think I've glued them both back on about a dozen times each.
Are you using just like liquid cement for that, or just upped it to CA glue yet?
No, it is CA because the fenders are resin and the mounts are photo etch.
Oh,
That's the problem. Is there's no surface area for it to adhere to, and the bumper's photo etch as well.
Oh, so that. Oh, yeah.
So this is the problem with. Apparently, the newer Mirror Models kits have gotten further away from resin, but the biggest issue with the Mirror Model kits is large components of it are resin. So that whole water tank is resin. Those cargo box, resin. The fenders, resin. The wheels, resin. Parts of the like steering system, resin. But then you're mounting them to like fiddly little bits of styrene. It's nightmarish. But anyway, it's almost done. Paint's on it. I'm hoping it'll be done for the end of the group build. That is all. And then we have this, what turned out to be a comically fun build. It's the Airfix 176, even though it says 172nd on the box, LCM 3. And it was supposed to come with a Sherman, but somebody took the Sherman out, I assume built it, but left the decals and the tracks, and then the box ended up in the pre-owned section at our favorite local hobby distributor. And then I bought it. And I was annoyed, but I built it anyway, and it turned out really cool, even though it actually only notionally resembles what an actual LCM3 looks like.
General shape sort of deal.
The fact that it is a landing craft that could fit a tank and has a bow ramp, and that's about as close as it gets, but it's the first floaty thing I've built since I butchered the Arizona when I was like 8. So this was actually a nice break from my usual stuff, and I'll probably find a tank eventually to drop in it.
I like the paint on it. It looks good.
Yeah,
like
that's a really nice color scheme.
You can thank the Admiralty for that. That's as close as I could get. The color match isn't perfect, but that's the, like, as of I think 1943 Royal Navy, all landing craft shall be painted thusly. And then we have, I mean, on paper they're works in progress, but these have really been relegated to the shelf of doom. So we have the, for the HIDF group build, we have my HIDF Assault Breacher, which is an M113 that I've shoehorned parts of the dozer blade from a Centurion onto, and then the base kit is the Australian fire support vehicle. So it's got the 30mm turret on top,
And the
and
giant
then I've
searchlight.
and the giant searchlight off the Centurion, and I've sort of built it up into a 113A2 standard, but not really.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hilarious, and I'm actually looking forward to getting back into that. I'm gonna have to come up with some absolutely outrageous camo scheme to go along with it, and I'm trying to make a couple of figures for it, so we'll see how that goes. And then we have the AMX-10 RC from Tiger, which actually is a pretty good kit at the end of the day.
This is for the in-house French group build, isn't it?
The in-house French group build. There's a few fit issues with it. There's almost no clearance between the base of the turret and the top of the hull, which is fine, except there's supposed to be a bunch of Pioneer tools that go there. So I'm going to have to find a way to fix the clearance height on that. But it's almost done. I just got to do some details and come up with some camouflage nets and a couple of other bits and bobs.
Very nice. Love the canvas you painted on there.
Yeah, I was quite happy how that turned out.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
This is what I've been working on. So this is the my finished Kawasaki Ki-48, which was a Japanese light bomber from the Second World War. This is the Hasegawa kit, but basically it is the 1971 kit with the addition of a single brass rod. This is built up as one of the aircraft that were used in the kamikaze units that attacked the British Pacific Fleet in 1945. Yeah, but a very old kit, definitely showed its age, but it was actually really fun to build, and I got to try out using the Edward window masking set, which, looking at the canopies on this was definitely needed. But yeah, had a lot
Oh,
of
so
fun.
you did have a masking set for that then. Good
Yeah,
for you.
it came
Yeah,
in the box when I got it. I didn't even realize it had it.
This is
Because I would have gone into spasms.
yeah.
Oh, God.
This is the kit you got off your Man Crush, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you so much. He hooked me up with a good deal. $15 for this thing was not bad. But yeah,
That is a good deal. I'd pay $15 for that, just for the weird factor alone.
Yeah,
honestly,
a kamikaze aircraft. Yeah,
the 2-engine kamikaze bomber. Yeah, sign me up. This is the other thing I've been working on. So, as I've been getting into Warhammer, my buddy from
Me likey.
got me the Baneblade kit from Games Workshop. I don't know what the scale of this is. It's big. It's pretty much the biggest tank I've ever built. The way it works is that you can actually build it into one. Basically, you can build it into one of 8 variants. But I decided to basically leave the upper hull removable. So I have 2 versions I've built. The first one is on the top. There is basically this amalgamation of 2 variants I've made. So Don, you'd like this. It's the armored personnel carrier variant. Plus, it's got the
big fuck off
planet
gun
destroyer
thing.
cannon. Yeah, I think it's the Quake cannon. And then the one on the side is the Hellhammer, which is basically the urban engineering support variant. Yeah, with a Sturm
Cool.
Tiger gun as a bow gun.
So I think Warhammer is 28mm.
28mm sounds about
If
right.
I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah.
yeah. So how's that
Uh,
translate into our scale type? Like 1 to
Like
It
50?
doesn't. Yeah.
something
It's
like that.
It's something weird like that, yeah. But at any rate, this kit is, I mean, it was Mold Line City, but then you look at stuff like on the back of the tank, you got that little Mechanicum shrine, which was all like really beautifully molded. Having all those options was really cool. Yeah, it's the fit was pretty decent overall, all things considered. I am going to have to go at it at some point with some Mr. Dissolved putty just to fill in some seams and cracks. But yeah, you know what? I went it together well. One thing though, I will say, the parts aren't labeled. Like there are no part numbers.
Nope.
Nope.
This has been a thing with Warhammer for years. I remember building some of their guard stuff probably, Christ, I don't know, 25 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was like the transition phase between everything is made of white metal, and then there's sort of second or third generation plastic tanks.
I mean,
and
honestly,
I
like,
was baffled at the time. It was like, what do
yeah.
you mean there's no instructions?
I mean, really, for myself, I found it wasn't an issue because with this, you get about, I think it's like 15 sprues in the box. But especially if you're only doing like a couple, like the whole idea is that the kit only builds in one variant. What I did was not standard. You're going to be using like only half of those sprues, and the parts are big enough that like you look at the instructions, you can pretty quickly
You can identify what you're
yeah
shooting for.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not alone. Like I don't build them anymore, but I follow a few guys who do on Instagram, and the modular thing is what everyone does because everybody understands what a massive investment these things are. And screw you, I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah. And,
Right. So you can build one tank and use a lot of like rare earth magnets and stuff to be able to reconfigure things so you can use them in different tabletop
yeah. Basically,
settings.
what I was trying to do with this build was basically just get the best bang for my buck. So like armored personnel carrier with also the biggest gun that's mounted on a wheel, like a tracked vehicle in the Imperium. Like, yeah, why not?
Well, and there's no rules.
There's no rules,
especially
no.
if you're not playing.
Like
Anything goes. You can make it look as wacky as you want, and everyone's going to look at it and go, "Yeah, that makes perfect sense."
Yep.
I am infuriated to see though that their mold quality hasn't improved at all. Like Games Workshop should be ashamed of
Yeah.
Well,
how chunky
I
some
can-
of that is.
I can still see like seam lines from where I am. Sorry, Dennis.
Oh yeah. Like, and I mean, partially that's my fault. I haven't cleaned them up as best as I could, so I will have to be like going in and doing that post cleanup.
Sure, but like this is like 90s Tamiya level
Yeah.
injection molding quality, and they're
Yeah.
charging like that thing retails for
I mean, my buddy who
not cheap.
my teacher got this for me for my birthday. I don't even want to know what he paid for it. Like, I hope he was able to somehow like seduce his way into a good deal at the hobby store, but
Yeah.
I don't think he was.
Like Radiation Addict on Discord, Riley,
Yep.
oh
Mhm.
boy. Yeah, he was looking at buying a Lehman Russ, and like even the old first edition ones, they still go for like $160.
Oh, I mean, like my buddy, he actually, it's funny you mention that. He 3D printed a Lehman Russ tank, and he just gave it to me at work today because like he's printed so many of them, he doesn't actually have any space for them anymore. So like, yeah, I just got this like $150 value for free. Like I think
Dude,
I can find better uses for his resin if he's looking
Yeah,
for
yeah.
work.
yeah. But that's the thing. It's like 3D printing. I'm surprised it like hasn't killed off Games Workshop stuff already.
They try.
They try.
They are like ravenous when it comes to brand protection, like Disney level lawsuits.
Yeah.
But good luck. You can't stamp it out, and unless you're playing in a like Games Workshop sanctioned.
Well, and unfortunately,
tournaments.
so many of the games are run by Games Workshop entities. So like,
Yeah.
it will never take off in the competitive field. But like, if you're just
No.
like, building really stupid looking tanks, like, you know what? Like my buddy, he actually like printed so many Warhammer models within the first week of getting his new 8K printer. It paid for itself. Even when you factor
Right.
in the cost of resin and all that, it paid for itself.
Because he was just cranking them out for people wanting them for
He
casual
can print,
stuff.
like, this Le Mans Rust tank, and I think it'll take him about 5 hours to print an entire tank.
Jesus.
Good lord.
Yeah, printers are getting good. I mean, those fuel drums you can see on the back, those were 3D printed.
Yeah. They're actually really nice.
Yeah.
God damn it, don't make me spend money I don't have, Dennis.
Get into Warhammer with me, man.
No, God,
Get,
no.
get a kill team set. Get a kill team set.
I tossed all my Warhammer stuff a bunch of years ago because I was like, no, I don't need this anymore.
Jeez.
Should have kept it.
I know Garrison's sitting on a ton of orcs. He doesn't know what he wants to do with them.
Oh, so this was, we were supposed to have another special guest tonight. The ghost of Cologne, our friend Val, who's the reason that there's a German flag on the MMP logo. But he ran into some technical difficulties, so he couldn't join us. But he is working on a home-built balsa wood trebuchet, and I am absolutely overawed by the engineering that Val has put into this.
Yeah, he started building this for the artillery group build. Fucking when was that? Like
God,
last
like a
year.
ago? But yeah, he just got so busy with school and what have you that
Life.
it ended up on the back burner, which we all sympathize with. But Val, if you're listening to this, that thing is absolutely a work of art, and we are all super stoked to see this thing get to completion.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks amazing.
What you got for us, Callum?
I am still working on my AMX 1375 with the SS11. So right now it is finally painted, and when I was painting it, I realized, looking at photos, so these are launchers for the ATGMs. So these big rounded areas are supposed to have a mesh plate on them, except it's a hella Humbrol 1970s kit. They don't have it.
So they just came in the box as big open hoops.
Yep.
Oh.
So
what you got? Is that a Band-Aid?
Yeah, I was chatting
That's
with
brilliant.
I was chatting with Nick, the scale armorer, when I was doing
Right.
it, and I was like, shit. Well, I'm painting it, and it needs it. It really needs a mesh on it because it just looks stupid without it. I'm going, what can I use? What can I use? Da, 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 da. Oh, hang on. I ran out to the kitchen, grabbed the box of Band-Aids, brought one out, and stuck it on. Just went, yeah, this will work. Hopefully it works
That
because
works. That looks good.
now it's painted. It's kind of, I don't know. You got to see it in the right light to get the effect again, but it does look substantially better with it than without it. So
I mean, the picture you've got posted there, it's translucent. You can see through it. It's
it's not
short of going out and buying a bunch of photo etched mesh and then trying to cut it to shape. I think that's the best option you've got.
Yeah, well, it's already like the Band-Aid is already to the rough shape. Like I'm taking some creative liberties on it, but I'm going to be the only one really seeing it. But
right.
Yeah, so I used some ultra thin super glue once the Band-Aid stickers were stuck down, just around the edge, just to like properly hold them there, because you can see there's barely any material holding them, so now they're properly down. So when I was painting it, I was ultra thin enamel paint over the whole tank. So I did it over the Band-Aid mesh, and it's like you got to look at it in the right light, but even then, it still looks better with it than without it. So yeah, we're just gonna go with it.
Good on you.
But so this
ingenious
the
little solution.
Yeah, the paint scheme, the color I found off Prime Portal, because the Swiss don't call them the AMX 1375. They have a weird name.
Of course
for it.
they don't.
Yeah, it's like the Lichter Panzer 51 or something like that. But I spent forever trying to find what bloody color they used. I couldn't find it at all. Like, and I don't trust the bloody because what everything else, like what the box art and all that shows, is like a very, very black green, like ultra dark. But then there's others that say it was just olive tan and then olive drab and then this what. So I just found an actual one that was used in Swiss service, and it might have faded to this green. I don't know, but I'm going to go with it, and it's actually quite a nice color. I like the green, so I'm going to stick with it.
Good times.
Yeah. So.
And good for you for building a Heller Humbrol kit and not, throwing it across the room.
Honestly, yeah, it did have some issues. It's not the worst. I've built worse. I mean, I've still got another Heller kit in my stash, so we'll see. Yeah. That's the torpedo boat, yeah. We'll see how that one goes. But yeah, finally starting to enjoy this kit. Yeah, it's like when you got a kit and you haven't got any paint on it or anything, so it's just like multiple different colors of like photo etch or like putty, and it just looks like a complete mess. And then you put your first coat of primer on it, and you're just like, oh yeah, now you kind of see it. Yeah.
Oh, you mean every kit I've built in the last year?
Yep. You finally unify the whole thing with a base coat, and it's like, okay, now I see it as a tank, not just this blob of color of different mess.
I'm less likely to cry.
Yeah. So, but of course, this is going to be on hold for the next few weeks. So,
Yeah, rub it in.
oh, sorry, my paid holiday to Europe. Yeah.
This little bastard.
It's okay, he's going to get sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll explain all of that at the end of the episode. Wait, we usually get Garrison to do this, but he's not here because he's with his parents.
Well, I mean, the people know already. Normandy Group Build, June 6, 2023 to August 30, 2023. You got about, a little over a month left. It is our competitive group build we are running. If you want, you can join our Discord, submit photos of your works in progress and then your finished product, and there are prizes that you will be eligible to possibly win. We are also running the Horizon Island Defense Force group build. This is just a non-competitive group build for fun. Definitely check out our Horizon Islands Defense Force episode if you are not aware of the lore already. And join in. Show us what crazy stuff your imagination can produce.
Speaking of Warhammer.
Speaking of Warhammer, I would be lying if I said I wasn't tempted to make an HIDF faction.
It's not a bad idea. So, this podcast is sponsored by Scale Colors and SE3D. So, if you are looking for some airbrushable paint straight from the bottle, non-toxic and acrylic, then log on to scalecolors.com. He has all the colors you could possibly need, especially if you're going for naval. Jeff here has a big range of naval colors, and they're all pretty correct to what they should be. So, they are some really good paints. And if you are building a tank and you are looking for some tracks, say your kit comes with rubber band and they're horrendous, like 90% of the ones I buy, but that's my own fault, you can go onto his SC3D department where he has 3D resin printed tracks. They are high detail, completely workable, and they look amazing. So if you are looking for any paint, airbrushable or not, and for 3D tracks, go on to scalecolors.com. This is by Jeff Hearn. He works by himself, so give him a little shout out. Tell him, if you order anything from him, tell him you heard it from us. Just helps us both out. Yeah. God, I suck at advertisements.
And of course, as always, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Paul Gallagher and Lord Floki. If you want to help keep the lights on here at the Micro Machines podcast, head on to the Patreon link in the description of this video. Shoot us a couple bucks each month, get access to some exclusive content like special episodes and blooper reels, and help us out. Well,
all right.
This wasn't the blooper reel?
No. The stuff on Patreon, you think we make some bad jokes on the regular episode.
Stuff that we would get banned off of YouTube for.
The stuff on Patreon is quite different. It's the stuff I have to remove. Most of it from Garrison, funnily enough.
Oh, shocking.
So I'm just we'll just say an announcement. It's going to be a while before our next episode, about 3 weeks or so. Mainly because I'm going to be away touring Europe for 3 weeks.
Because
away touring Europe for 3 weeks.
Can't explore Europe if you're sick.
Well, I say Europe. I'm going to go to the middle of nowhere, northeast Italy, and then I'm going to Glasgow and London. All places I've already been to. But
yep, that's better than what I'm going to do for the next 3 weeks. So
you're going to be,
suck an egg.
But yeah, so it might be if you're wondering why it's a bit of a while before our next episode, although not that we have a consistent schedule at all. But yeah, that's going to be the reason.
And for those of you that won't notice, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Dennis?
Well, if you've gotten to this point, thank you so much for sticking with us. You've been watching and listening to the Micro Machines podcast. We will return in the near future.
Eventually, maybe.
One day, God willing.
And hopefully with the ghost.
The ghost might return. Stay tuned. Yeah,
All right.
well, take care, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.